You gotta have this pedal around this way. Waiting for the other hosts. We're gonna start this, we'll start the discussion in a couple minutes. We don't know whether the gods will have this thing fire up or not. We're really throwing the dice when you do it. Once it starts, I just did. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Some more. Now it's okay. So I want to go the other way. Okay. I'm just going to wait for a couple more people. Andy, how are you? I'm going to tell you a story, the history behind it. Earliest motorcycles came out of France. They were done by the Dion Bouton company, and they were tricycles. All the early ones were tricycles. And Dion Bouton was famous for the engine that they developed. And if you look carefully at this engine, you'll see almost exact all the characteristics of the later Indian Headstrom engine or the Harley-Davidson engine. The Dion Bouton by 1902 had produced 20,000 of these single-cylinder engines, and they would sell the engine, they would sell the battery box, which is this big square box down the center tube. They would sell the surface carburetor. And for those who haven't heard the term surface carburetor, it's basically a carburetor in the fuel tank. And the fuel is stored in the bottom, and then it pulls the vapors from above into the engine. It's an intake valve, and it's called atmospheric because it's not driven off of a camshaft. If you're familiar with Model Ts and the thermosiphon system, you need the angled tube coming up back to the radiator, and that's what this has. The center part is the radiator for taking heat away. What's interesting about this pattern is if you're moving, the air is flowing through horizontally, but if you're stopped, it's going vertically. And so the slots on it work both ways for it, which is kind of, you take one of these apart, all the clever things they did back then are just amazing on it. The whole case for the engine is cast aluminum. They'd only discovered how to even put aluminum together perhaps 10 years earlier on it. The far side is the oil supply. It's a total loss oil system, so there's no recirculating pump. You basically splash everything around and let it leak out. And then on the right side is additional fuel for to add to the fuel that's in the surface carburetor. When Dion did their trikes starting in 1895, by about 1897 in Paris there were comments that there were more people riding these things than there were pedestrians. So they're just going all over the place. And just start bending it. Well, it started firing.
how fast you pedal it.
Move that thing. So you're closed right now. How about now? A little bit more. That's too much. Still not right. Go back. A little more, just a slight more. Okay. No? Slight bit more. Another way. A little more. A little more.
How much do you charge for a test ride?
We had it running yesterday and they're very fussy. We'll let it sit for a couple